All right, let's say you've got some money saved up, or maybe you just have some room on a credit card, and you're looking to make a major investment to upgrade your studio gear. What should you get? What is going to make the biggest impact on how your recordings and mixes sound? Well, I'm going to tell you what I believe is the best investment you could possibly make in your studio. But first, I want to explain something. It's this concept I have called the signal flow hierarchy. And it means that with each step down the signal chain, the differences get less and less. So we start with the player, then the instrument, the microphone, your preamp and any outboard gear, and then finally the converters. That's essentially your entire signal chain. This is a very simple concept that you probably understand already, but it's harder to put into practice because for us audio engineers, that vintage preamp or that analog summing mixer, these things are just so tempting, right? But as you can see, those are very far down the signal flow. And the general rule is that the closer you get to the source, the bigger the opportunity to improve the sound. And of course, it all begins with the player. And I'm going to come back to that actually, because there's something else that's not on this chart that is actually more important and affects all of these, even the player. But if we move on down the line, next is the instrument. And this is very logical, right? If you have a mediocre drum set or a mediocre sounding guitar, then the answer is definitely not to just get a better mic to capture that mediocre instrument. You're going to get much more mileage, much more bang for your buck upgrading the instrument, which by the way also includes tuning it properly and setting it up properly, than from upgrading a microphone. Now, a different mic will impact the sound more than a preamp, but still, upgrading your mics isn't going to take your sound and your final mixes from amateur to pro territory. And I learned this the hard way multiple times, actually. I mean, once I spent $3,000 on a Neumann U87 thinking that that's what I needed in order to get that vocal sound I was missing, that crisp, clear, detailed 3D vocal sound. But after I got it, it didn't take me long to realize that my $300 SM7B beat it out pretty much every time. In fact, in most home studios or small project studios, you're going to be better off with mostly affordable dynamic mics. And these days, the technology's gotten so good, I really don't believe that high-end mics are the most impactful investment that you can make. Now, I do have another video you can check out here. We'll link to it below. It's called 3 Cheap Mics That Beat the Expensive Ones. So what about mic preamps or outboard gear or better interfaces and converters? Well, here's the thing. When it comes to preamps, and people will go online and they will write practical essays about the differences in color and character of certain high-end preamps. I mean, I've read people talking for ages about how they swear by some obscure vintage preamp for how it sounds on hi-hat or floor tom. I mean, this stuff gets pretty crazy. And yeah, nice preamps are cool. They do sound better than budget preamps, but is that really what's going to fix your crappy sounding productions and mixes? No. And again, with each year that goes by, the affordable stuff is getting closer and closer in quality to the expensive stuff, especially with converters. I mean, as long as you're not going with the absolute bottom budget options, I think you're going to be fine. Now, one thing that's not on here is monitors. So what about upgrading your monitors, getting a nice high-end pair? Because after all, you need a pretty flat, accurate frequency response in order to hear properly, right? Well, not really. I actually believe the opposite is true. Like the bigger, the more pristine and accurate your monitors are, the less real world they are. And you're still going to have translation issues. And either way, whether you have cheap monitors or really fancy expensive ones, you're still just going to have to learn how they sound and learn how music is supposed to sound on those speakers in your room. And for me, when I got NS10s, I mean, these are not considered fancy monitors. They're certainly not considered accurate monitors, but they helped my mixes get a lot better than any other high-end monitors that I tried. Now, we have another video we'll link to below called If You Nail the Mid-Range, You Nail the Mix, which goes a little more in depth about why these speakers, NS10s, why they work so well. But bottom line, yes, your choice of monitors matters, but the price tag doesn't. It's more about, do they help you hear and focus on the right things? And remember, your monitors have no impact on the quality of the source sound that you're actually capturing. It's outside of the signal chain. So what is the best thing you can spend money on to upgrade your studio? Well, to answer that, I'm going to play a couple A/B tests here. So listen to the first version and the second version. There's two different songs here, and try to guess what the difference is. So you can hear the obvious differences in clarity, presence, punch, and fullness in those examples. And in both cases, there was no change in preamps or microphones or monitors. Actually, in both of those cases, the difference in the before and after was getting trained in our PPS program, because the best investment you can make for your studio is not in gear, it's in yourself. The best audio engineers can get great sounds no matter what gear and what space they're in, whereas a mediocre audio engineer is gonna get mediocre sounds even in a multi-million-dollar studio. You still take yourself and your skills wherever you go and whatever gear is in front of you. So don't obsess over upgrading the tools, upgrade yourself so that you can use the tools that you already have and get 10 times better results. And yes, you can learn a lot for free online with YouTube and other sources, but there's a saying that goes, those who pay attention. So there's something to be said for getting some skin in the game. And if you're someone who wants to get paid and work with clients in the studio, well, how can you expect people to invest into you and trust you with their money and their music if you're not willing to invest into yourself first? Now, earlier I said I would come back to the signal flow chart and talk about the player as the most important part of your signal chain. And at first glance, it seems like that's something that's totally outside of your control. But that's actually not true. If you upgrade yourself with the knowledge on how to coach musicians and capture the best performances you can from them, and especially learn the pro hacks and workarounds to deal with those situations when the player can't really play well enough, well, then you've got the ability to make every project you touch sound like a pro record. And that transformation can only happen here, not with any piece of gear. If you like this channel, if it's helped improve your mixes at all, then consider joining our full Pro Production System training program. This is where we give you a proven step-by-step blueprint to record, edit, and mix to a pro standard every time. And we're gonna put a link below where you can hear some more before and after examples of our students. And trust me, those before and after examples are a lot more obvious than comparing a PreSonus to a Neve preamp. Now, I'm not against gear, I'm not against upgrading your gear, but the other benefit is once your skills are actually there first, you're gonna be a lot smarter about knowing what gear upgrades you actually need and what you don't, without even having to look for any opinions online. And you'll easily be able to tune out and ignore all of the gear hype and the gear lust that's out there, which is gonna save you a lot of money. Now, despite all of that, it's still fun to talk about gear, right? So if you want to see my picks of home studio gear that I would recommend, check out this video next.